let's look at building this Lync 2013 standard edition front end then. So here we have Windows Server 2012. So far I haven't really made any modifications to it. I've added, for example, the Active Directory tool, so you can see, for example, my Active Directory here. It's called contoso.local. I'm sure you're all familiar with that one. I've also added the DNS tool, so we can make all the modifications we need from this box. So haven't done anything in terms of Active Directory or extensions or anything like that as yet. So let's start off the process. Now the first thing we're going to do is add .NET 3.5. Very simple to do. Pop into Server Manager. We're going to add roles and features when it's ready. There we go. So we're going to say role-based or feature-based installation. We want this server. My server is called Lync FE. Okay, we don't want to add any roles. What we want to do is pop through to the features, and what we're going to do is add .NET 3.5. So select that, and we'll let it install. Okay, that took a little while to run. As you can see, it's popped up in the message bar here to say it's done. So what we're going to do now is satisfy some of the prereqs for Lync server. Fortunately, you can do them from the command line. You can run them from PowerShell. It sets up the relevant parts of IIS and all that kind of stuff. So I've copied the command into here. Let's just turn word rep on for a second. You can see the whole command. It's got all the elements there that we need to install. You can get that off the blog article, by the way. So what we'll do is we'll select this, copy it, and we're going to start PowerShell, but we need to start PowerShell in an administrative mode. You can see I've already got PowerShell on the taskbar down here, so I'm going to right click on it, select Windows PowerShell by right clicking on it, and then run as administrator. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is just paste that command . There we go. So we'll let that run, and then we'll come back to it when it's finished. Right, as you can see, it's all done. It'll warn you that it's expecting a reboot. So what we'll do is we'll reboot the server and then come back to it in a moment. So we'll drop out of PowerShell and we'll go for a reboot. So we've rebooted the server now. We should be ready to start looking at the Lync 2013 components. So let's fire up the DVD. I should have attached it to this machine already. So we'll pop into there. There it is. We're going to pop into there and run setup. There we go. So the first warning we get is that we have to have C++ installed. So we'll let that install. It's asking us where we want to put the install file. So let's just accept the defaults for now. Accept the license agreement. There we go, and we'll let this piece run. We're ready for the deployment wizard. So the first thing we need to do with this is prepare Active Directory. So we've got the option there at the top to do that piece. So we'll select that. And the first thing we need to do, of course, is prepare the schema. So let's run that one. Obviously, you need to be logged in with a user that's got the relevant rights to your domain to be able to do it. That's that piece finished, so we'll click finish. So the next bit we're going to do is prepare the current forest that we're in. So let's just wait for this. There we go. So we're going to prepare the forest, so select that. We're going to prepare the local domain that we're in, so we'll select that and off it goes. That bit doesn't take long at all, so we're finished on there. So let's pop down here. So the next thing we're going to do is prepare the current domain. So click run on that. There we go. And as you can see, that bit's even faster, so we're done there. So you notice at the bottom bit, this piece here, add users to provide administrative access to the Lync Server control panel. There's a group called CS Administrator that members of that group have the rights to administer the system. So what we're going to do, as this is my demo system, I'm just going to find that CS administrator group, which is there, and I'm going to add my domain admins. So in my system, anyone who's a domain administrator will be able to administer a Lync server. Obviously, if you were putting this in properly, you'd put a bit more thought to that. Okay, so we'll go back to the main menu. What we've done now is we've finished preparing the Active Directory. So the next step in the process is to prepare the first standard edition server. So there's a menu option up here, the right hand side, prepare the first standard edition server. And what this does is this prepares the central management service. So what we'll do is we'll select that option there. There we go. And we just need to let it run. This piece can take a little while, so we'll let this run and come back to it. And there we go, it's done. Told you it took a little while. One thing to watch out for on this, if you get an error saying something like can't find disks for the databases, it's probably because you don't have enough free space. It's tempting when you're putting a virtual system together to actually make it as small as possible. It is possible to make the drives too small. Yeah, so it's one thing to watch out for. So we've done the standard edition server for CMS, so we'll finish that. And the next thing we're going to do is install the administrative tools. So click on that there, and we'll let it run. And it's finished. So what we need to do now is actually design our topology before we can actually deploy Lync. It's a common mistake that people jump straight into the install or update Lync server system, the option over on the left here, which of course won't work until we've defined what we're installing. So what we'll do is we'll pop into the topology builder. There we go, Lync server topology builder, fire that up. Okay, as this is a new implementation, we're going to create a new topology. So find somewhere to store it, we'll call it our Contoso Lync topology. There we go. So let's run through the options. We need to enter our primary SIP domain. I'm going to use contoso.com for this. You can use whatever you like. If you want to add additional SIP domains, that's where you do it. So we're going to go for one central site. Again, you can put whatever you like for your system, for your demos. There we go. So we've entered the basic information for our topology. So what we're going to do now is define a new front end. So we'll let the wizard open. There we go. So it's going to ask us a number of questions now. So let's work through those questions. So the name of the pool, we're going to be putting in a standard edition server. So we need to use the actual name of the server. So I'm just going to pop that up just to double check it. We'll get the properties up. We can see that our server there is just called Lync FE. So pop your server name in there and then click next. So here we need to select the features that we're going to install. Just for my demo purposes, I'm only going to install conferencing. I'm not going to install any of the other options, but obviously for your demo environment you may wish to change that. I'm not going to put mediation on. You can in your system, obviously. Okay, and again at this point I'm not going to be deploying an edge pool. There we go. So it's going to, as it's a standard edition server, the SQL is always going to be local, so you won't be able to change any of the options there. So now we're being asked for a file share. So what I'm going to do is on my standard edition server, I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to call it Lync data, and then I'm going to share it. I'm going to share it as Lync data, and for my permissions, as this is my demo system, I'm just going to give full control to everyone. Obviously, if you were deploying this properly, you'd secure that appropriately. There we go. So we've now shared a folder on our server called Lync data. So there's the new file share. It's on our server, and that's the name of the file share. So we'll select that. This is your external web services URL. I am going to put an edge server in mine eventually, so what I'm going to do is put in the address of my web services for my external domain, which I'm going to use webservices.contoso.com. Now, this bit is where we define our association with our web app server. I've already defined one. So we're going to pop into new and we're going to select one. So just to double check the server name. There it is. So our server name is that. And that will automatically host the discovery folder for you. In fact, you can check that as well if you want. Okay. So we've now defined our topology. We have a standard edition server. It's got all our basic IAM, a presence and conferencing. So what I'm going to do now is deploy that topology. So we right click, topology, publish. There we go. We let that run. Just takes a few minutes. Oh, sorry. We need to select which server is going to hold the central management store. That's the one that we set up earlier, so it's this server. And there we go. We can see we've now published the topology. So we can exit out of this now and return back to the installer. So what we're going to do now is actually install the first Lync server components. So to do that, we click on install or update the Lync server system, pop into there. There we go. So the first thing we're going to do is install the local configuration store. So we'll select that and let it run. So we're going to retrieve it directly from the CMS. There's no reason to do it manually. There we go. Took a little while, but we got there in the end. So the next step is we need to set up the Lync server components. So what it will do is it will pick up the config from the stores and then install the relevant components for you. So let's select that one. There we go. We just need to let this run. Again, this might take a little while. Okay, that took a little while, but it's finished now, so we can click on finish. So the next thing we need to do is look at assigning certificates. So this is the bit that people seem to find quite scary for some reason, but let's have a run through of it. So there's two certificates we need to get. So what we're going to do is request the first one. So we'll click next to that. We're going to send it to an online certification authority because my demo system has PKI in it. So we'll select that. And that's my PKI, dc.contoso.local.root.ca. We don't need to specify alternate credentials. We don't need to specify a separate template either. So we'll give it a friendly name. We'll call it a Lync frontend certificate, if I can spell. And I'm going to mark it as exportable as well. So we'll give it our information for the certificates, just basically company, organisation, that sort of stuff. And we need to select our country. Of course, you can put anything you like in there. Now it's worth making a note of these alternate names because it will come in handy when you want to create the DNS entries later on. So what I'm going to do is just pop into Notepad and we'll make a quick note of them. Okay, so we'll select next. We're going to configure contoso.com to allow automatic logon. We don't want any additional subject alternate names at this point. And there we go. It should go off and get our certificate for us. And there we go, so that's finished. So we'll click next. What we're going to do now is assign the certificate automatically. So make sure that's selected. And there we go. We've got one more certificate to do, and that's this one. So select the second one. Again, same process, pop through the request. So we'll send immediately. There's our CA. We don't need alternative credentials. We don't need an alternative template. So we'll give this a different friendly name so we know what it is. And note that this one's automatically marked as exportable because it needs to be the same on the other servers as well. So there's our company information, our country, subject name for the certificate. We don't need any additional sans on there. There we go. And then we're going to assign that certificate now as well. There we go, that bit's finished. So as you can see, we've now got both certificates are done, so we can close that piece out. Great, so we're now at the point where we can start the services, and Lync 2013 Standard Edition should be ready to go. So let's hit the run. That will automatically now wander off and start the services for us. Take long at all, did it? So one thing to watch out for, by the way, which I'll just show you in services. There's all our Lync services. You can see some are still starting. The one thing that's worth being aware of, when you reboot your demo system, just be aware that they're on actually a delayed start, so they can take a couple of minutes to actually get up and running. So let's wait for those to finish, and then we'll look at configuring some demo users. You can see all the services are started now, so let's have a look at how we go configuring a couple of users for this. Right, so before we can configure some users and actually get them on the system, we need to configure DNS as well. So you'll remember that we took a note of the DNS records earlier. They're there. I've got the DNS tools installed on this server, so let's fire those up and we'll get them created. So the first thing I'm going to do is create our contoso.com zone. There we go, you can see it there. So I'm going to create some A records. So our first one we're going to create is our SIP, and then enter the address for our server. I'm also going to create our Lync discover. Our dial in and meet. If you need to support any legacy clients, so ones that use SRV records to look up connectivity, we can create those as well. So right click, new, other records, select SRV. We'll do _SIP internal TLS _TCP, port 5061, and then the host, which is sipcontoso.com. There we go. So now we've created the DNS entries. Bear in mind a couple of these are for external, like web services for example, so we don't need to worry about those for now. So next what we're going to do is get a user set up for Lync 2010, and what we'll do then is fire up a client and get them set up. So how do we configure a user? Well, it's all done from control panel, or rather the Lync server control panel. So let's fire that up. There we go, Lync server control panel. You'll have to authenticate. Also, for this client, you need to have Silverline installed. So if you don't have that, you'll be prompted to install it. It'll give you a link to download it as well. So we're going to authenticate. There we go. Now you configure the users in here under users. Now don't be tempted to try and configure your administrator user because it won't work. I'll quickly show you that. We'll click on enable user. We'll add a user and we'll say we're going to try and add administrator. There we go. We're going to select our pool, which is there, and we're going to give him a specific SIP address. There we go. Now when I try and enable this guy, it'll fail. There we go. So as you can see, we can't do it. So instead, what I'm going to do is configure a demo user that I've already created. So if we pop into Active Directory, you'll see that I've got a user called Andy Pandy, and we're going to use that guy to configure. So into users, enable users, we're going to add, we'll find our test user, which is Andy. There we go. Click OK. I'm going to assign him to this pool that we created, which is the standard edition front end, and we're going to use the user's email address. Click enable. There we go. We've now got a single user, which is Andy Pandy, enabled for Lync Server 2013. So obviously now we need to get the Lync client installed and we need to get it fired up and show that we can log on. So to install the Lync client, it's part of Office 2013. I've already created a small install package here, which will only install the Lync client, but obviously you can install the whole of Office if you want. You can also use the basic client. So let's have a look. We'll pop into Office 2013. Just run setup and let that finish. Won't take long. There you go, that didn't take long at all. Right, so let's fire up the Lync client. We'll get logged in as Andy Pandy. So let's find Lync Server Control Panel, there we go. Oh, no, already got that open. We want the Lync client, don't we? So Lync 2013, there we go. We'll just accept whatever the options are there, and it should fire up the Lync client for us. So what we're going to do is change the sign-in address to Andy Pandy's, to andypandy@contoso.com, and click sign in. Now we will need to authenticate because obviously we're logging in as a different user, and also depending on how your certificates are set up, you may get a certificate warning as well. I'm going to bang his password in here, but it's not going to work because obviously I'm going to have the wrong username as well. So I need to correct the username and pop the password in. And there we go, we're now logged into Lync. We now have a working standard edition of Lync 2013. So obviously now you can go on, you can play with the policies, you can add additional users. It's pretty straightforward. I can understand why people find it a little bit more difficult than some of the other products out there, because there's quite a few steps to it, but yeah, anyway, I hope that helped.